Welcome to Let's Grow Buffalo.
Today we're going to talk about growing broccoli and cauliflower.
So broccoli and cauliflower are both part of the brassica family, which means that they have similar traits that help them grow better together. What exactly are those plants again, Justin?
So on top of the broccoli and cauliflower, obviously, there's things like kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, radishes, rutabaga, and there's a bunch of others as well. But those are some of the main ones. Growing up, it's something we didn't really grow a lot of, honestly. My dad had a lot of trouble with worms, basically. He didn't really enjoy cooking up broccoli and finding a worm on your plate, so we kind of just strayed away from them. But more recently, I've been growing more and more of them. I just find that using like a row cover, so I have like a low tunnel with a thin fabric cover that I use, and I can see the cabbage moths, which are like one of the bigger pests for these family plants.
Those are the white ones that tend to be flying around.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And you can even see them like flying around outside the row cover, wishing they could get in there. But as long as they don't get in to lay their eggs, you don't have to worry about the worms. I honestly had a bunch of broccoli and things like that last year out of my garden and didn't find a single worm in any of it.
Nice. Yeah, that's kind of my mistake last year. Was I underestimated the pests themselves. So I remember going out one day and being like, man, this looks like it's going to turn out to be a really great plant. And then come to find out the next day there was nothing but stem. All of the leaf had been eaten.
Yep.
And obviously that didn't end up growing very well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a good thing you brought up the row covers. These are cool weather crops, meaning that they can withstand the cold a little bit better.
Yep.
I've read maybe as low as 20 degrees Fahrenheit is suitable, but these can withstand a little bit of frost, and something like a row cover actually can help alter the temperature if you really need it to. So that's a nice thing. One of the problems that you could also have is just the opposite problem, where it gets too hot, and especially here in Buffalo, you don't know what you're going to get from day to day on a weather basis. So occasionally if something gets too hot early in the season, or obviously as you start to get closer to summertime, your plants can bolt. So instead of them staying low and compact and you have that nice compact head, you'd think, this looks delicious, is what I buy at the store. It actually starts to explode upward, and that is not really what you're looking for.
Right, so yeah, especially once the weather starts to turn and you're not looking for any added temperature, it's good to make sure you're using a nice thin cover if you are going to use one. And the main part of what you want is that floret, right? And that's an immature flower, basically. It's starting to work its way towards becoming a flower, and you want to make sure, like, if you start to see a little discoloration, things are starting to turn a little bit yellow, that's when you need to just make sure to harvest it right away before things get too far away. But if you miss it, then maybe you can just save some seeds for next year.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool display. I remember looking at it and being like, hey, wait, what? I didn't plant any flowers there. But yeah, each of those tiny little heads are little individual flowers, and once they open up, that's where the pollination happens, and that's actually where you end up growing the seeds for the next year. So
yeah.
We're going to take a little closer look. I started a few broccoli and cauliflower seeds a couple weeks ago, so you guys will know what to expect. We're actually going to start a few more too while we're at it. All right, so here's my seed starting tray. It doesn't have all of my stuff, but got some peppers growing back here that we were talking about in a previous video. I've got some kale growing right here. It kind of fits into this family. We might talk about that at a later date. The stuff that we're most interested for this video is actually over here. So, like I said, the nice thing about this tray that I got, it actually comes with an entire paper here where I can label what's in each cell and when I planted it. So yeah, let's see, on March 18th is when I got to planting most of these, or these 6 cells anyway. I've got 2 cells of cauliflower and 4 cells of broccoli. But it looks like the seeds in the one packet were bad. It was an older packet, so looks like that was a wash. No big deal. I got plenty of backups. So this cell's an interesting one to talk about. I personally like to thin out my plants as I go. So if you plant let's say four seeds, and you end up getting 4 seedlings in a single cell, they start to compete after a while. So at least I tend to cut mine out. You can rip them out, and that could work. It could also damage the roots, so you'd have to be careful. What do you do again, Justin?
So I usually will just let them grow for about 4 weeks. And then when I get to that point, I'm going to pull that whole cell out, basically all the dirt, all the plants that are in that cell, separate all the plants from each other, and then I'll pot up. I'll put them into a little bit larger of a pot by themselves. And if I have extras, they go in my compost.
Yeah, right. Extras are great gifts if you need them, and yeah, great for composting if you need it too. So yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about, kind of in regards to that, is the energy and the nutrition for the seed. So when you actually have a single seed, it has everything that it needs to get to this point. So the broccoli are a really easy example to see here. These are the leaves that I was talking about in the pepper video, where they're not the true leaves of the plant. These were actually inside of the seed, and when the seed started to get moist enough and it was at the right temperature, it popped through, and this is what we have. Now, I don't have any that are quite at this point yet, but eventually they're going to start growing into broccoli leaves. Not these ones. These ones are actually going to fall off. Like I said in the pepper video, something that can be recommended, depending on what potting mix you're using, is you might have to fertilize them. So the coconut coir that comes with this kit is just a growing medium. There's no nutrition to it. Whereas if you got something like Miracle Grow seed starting mix, it actually does have some fertilizer in that. So it will get some nutrition that way. Justin's method basically takes care of that. It doesn't matter what you grow it in, because he transplants it at about the same time that it needs to be put into real soil with real nutrition in it. So I'm just going to get started here. I'm going to plant some broccoli and cauliflower in these 3 cells, and we'll go from there. So yeah, Justin, why don't you explain a little bit about broccoli, or cauliflower for that matter?
Yeah, so both of them, you pretty much want full sun. If you can get 6+ hours of direct sunlight per day, that's ideal. A little more is definitely fine too. Broccoli, once you've harvested it, just a kind of a side note, like, you can definitely get some more side shoots, so you don't have to be, it's not just harvest once and done. You can get more out of it if you want to. Cauliflower is just, a little bit more difficult of one. I grew it last year. It did okay. I guess I didn't even recognize the signs of it going to seed. So like with broccoli, I thought it was pretty easy. You start to see it turns a little bit yellow. The cauliflower, I just was like, wow, this looks kind of fuzzy. I don't know, it looks kind of like weird cauliflower. And it turns out that is it trying to go to seed. For me, I'm always trying to extend my seasons out, get things in the garden as soon as possible. So I have a whole schedule laid out with when I'll start things from seed and when I'll put them outside. And for broccoli and cauliflower and some other similar things like kale, basically I feel like I can start them from seed around March 9th, and then give them about 4 weeks before I pot them up, give them another 4 weeks or so, get them outside a little bit here and there, and then take them out to the garden on like May 3rd or so. And especially with my little bit of protection from the row cover that I use, they can usually get through any weather that'll come up that time of year. You never know. You might still get a time where it's too cold for that, but I try to not be too aggressive with my schedule. But you should be able to put them out around May 3rd in this area and not really risk losing them.
Yeah. So real quick, I'm just going to thin out a couple of mine. I can tell that some of these are weak and small to begin with, so they're really just going to break, not really going to do much to disturb the soil. But yeah, I know this one's not really going to make it. I could just pot them up as a whole mix like this too. I might even try and salvage this one off screen. Unfortunately, just the place that it popped out, it's very, very flimsy. So I might try and plant it a little bit deeper in this adjacent cell to salvage it. But it just depends on how much work I want to do. So anyway, there you have it. Seeds planted. Same drill as always. Make sure you keep the soil moist. A little bit more warmth will help these grow faster. And then we'll be able to get it out in the garden here in a few weeks.
Yeah, and I guess one other thing I just thought of that I kind of wanted to mention about broccoli, cauliflower, other brassica seeds. I tend to do a lot of different things at the same time, and I'm finding that the brassica seeds germinate rather quickly compared to some of your other ones. So if you're trying to start a lot of things at the same time, just be aware they might sprout quickly, and then you want to take the cover off, and that might make it harder to get some of your other seeds to germinate in the following days.
Yeah. Perfect. So as always, best thing you can do to help the channel is like, comment, subscribe, and share with anybody you know. Till next time, don't forget growing is a practice, and let's grow buffalo.